Okay, I'm gonna kind of do this video with minimal edits so I can really just talk to you guys and chat all things money. In saying that, I do tend to yap and I'll probably have to edit this down. But hello you guys, I hope you're all doing well, having yourselves a good day. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name's Ella. I do a lot of vlogs on my channel as well as personal finance videos. I love talking about money, not in like a preachy finance bro way, but in like a relatable, still trying to live my best life, spend money on the things that I enjoy whilst also hitting my financial goals kind of way. A sustainable way, I think, is probably the best way to put it. Sustainable and balanced. My financial position, especially in terms of my income, has changed a lot over the last 12 to 18 months, which has allowed me to pay off my car loan. We just paid that off last month, which is so exciting. And as much as I'm all about balance and making room in your budget for the things that you enjoy, the reality is debt payoff doesn't just happen passively. Making minimum payments on your debt across several years is just going to cost so much in interest. And I actually just sat down, crunched the numbers on our mortgage. I'm in shock, you guys. The amount that we paid towards our mortgage over the last 2 years and how much of that has actually gone towards paying off our loan versus what we've paid in interest, I'm shook. It's honestly so sad. But that is our next financial goal. Now our car loan is paid off, we are going to be focusing on paying off our mortgage early. So we're going to go all into that, how we plan on doing that, our timeline. I'm using my hands a lot, I'm so sorry. I'm just so excited. So yeah, just like a bit of a money chat, debt-free journey update for you guys. As I said, we paid off our car loan last month, which is so exciting. We bought this back in April of last year, and I feel like I need to kind of provide a bit of context to explain why we took out the loan initially. Before we bought this car, we had a 2007 Subaru Outback, so she was an old gal, very much on her last wheels. At the time, the secondhand car market was atrocious. I don't know what it's like now. I'm hoping that it's improved, but it was almost just as much to buy a secondhand car than it was to buy a brand new one, so we decided to do that. We bought a 2023 Mazda CX-5 for a purchase price of $45,000. At the time, we were just about to move into this house, and we've been building this house for 18 months. We've been paying rent and a mortgage at the same time. And transparently, I've talked about this before, we just had enough money to buy that car outright, but it would have been almost every last dollar to our name. I think we had probably $48,000 in our account at the time, and I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. But we also needed a car. So we were kind of in a bit of a predicament, and I think most people that go into debt are. Well, I think there's two types of debt. Debt that's just like unnecessary, frivolous spending, which is like a whole other separate type of debt, and there's a lot of mindset and psychology behind that. But there's also many situations where some people simply do not have a choice. We were lucky that we had both options and this was just the best option for us. But I think there's a lot of shame and just like negative connotations around debt. Like this word debt is so shameful, especially in this space, the personal finance space. Those feelings of guilt and shame aren't going to make you feel any better. For some people, especially in some countries, having debt is like the only way to build up credit score or to pay for education. If you're of a low socioeconomic status, like you do not have the education nor the means nor the support that some people do have, that mean they can avoid going into debt. So yeah, just wanted to acknowledge that. Even though I'm really proud of our debt-free journey and being able to pay it off so aggressively, it also comes from a place of privilege, and even taking out the loan and deciding to go into debt for this came from a place of privilege rather than necessity. So I just want to acknowledge that. So yeah, purchase price was $45,000. We paid a deposit of $15,000, so $15,000 of our own money, and we took out a loan of $30,000 at an interest rate of 5.89%. The only fee was a $250 admin like setup fee, but nothing else. No early exit fees. We took out a 7-year car loan, which I wouldn't recommend unless you know that you can pay it off early because it would just cost so much in interest. But for us, we wanted to keep the minimum repayments as low as possible, just in the off chance anything were to happen. Just with my previous experience with losing my job through COVID and another work experience, I knew how quickly things could change financially. So we did a 7-year loan just to keep the repayments down as low as possible. That was back in April, and this year we decided to get quite aggressive with it. In January, we paid $1,290 towards it. In Feb, we paid $3,000 towards the car. In March, we paid $1,000. You'll notice they kind of fluctuate because my income fluctuates now that I do social media full time. In April, we paid $2,000. In May, we paid $5,200. In June, we paid $4,500. You can tell we were getting real aggressive with it. And then our final payment in July was $1,934.49. So I think in the first 6 months of this year, we paid off $18,000 or just over. So it took us just over 15 months to pay off that loan. And in total, the amount that we paid in interest was $1,000 $37.73. So overall, we paid $31,287.73 for a $30,000 personal loan. Now, is paying over $1,000 in interest on a depreciating asset ideal? No. However, and I don't want this to come across as me encouraging anyone to go into debt, because absolutely not. I think being debt-free is so ideal, especially consumer debt-free, and not even from just like a financial paying silly money and interest kind of way, but also from like a psychological mindset way as well. Not having that debt hanging over your head can be so freeing, and I think that's not talked about nearly enough. However, just to kind of give you guys a different perspective, keeping that $30,000 in our offset account against our mortgage, which our current interest rate is 6.45%, saved us just over $2,000 in interest. So even though we had to pay an admin fee and paid over $1,000 in interest, it actually made more financial sense to keep that money in our offset account to offset the interest on our home loan. We actually came out on top after everything was said and done. So it's like a prime example of kind of making your money work for you. And like, we didn't have to pay this car loan off. We could have just kept our money on our offset and just made the minimum repayments. But again, just going back to that feeling of having something hanging over you. And I just don't like that feeling of owing anyone money. And also for cash flow reasons, like paying off that car loan meant that we freed up at least $440 per month from our budget. That's one less thing that we have to worry about if anything were to change financially for us. So yeah, just kind of give you two sides of the coin. In this case, going into debt and taking out that car loan actually worked better for us financially, but I also hated the feeling, and paying off that car loan early and owning that car outright was way more important to us than any kind of numbers comparing interest rates. It's just not worth it for us. Now that our car loan is fully paid off, we are moving on to our next financial goal, which if you've been keeping up with the budgeting videos, you would know our next goal is to pay off our mortgage early. I don't know, like this is partly why I'm so excited to film this video, because I really need to figure out the timeline for us. Obviously life is so unpredictable, who bloody knows, but having a number in mind and visualizing it really helps me and keeps me motivated. So as soon as we were done with paying off our car, immediately I was like, okay, need another goal to work towards, otherwise we will just spend frivolously. That's just us. So our short-term goal is to pay an extra $20,000 towards our mortgage by the end of 2024, which works out to be just over $3,000 per month. So actually a reasonable amount. That's going to be a bit of a challenge. And then long-term, I have no idea what our timeline looks like. So we'll figure that out. Like, what's a realistic timeline for us? And I think I'm really struggling with this because like, who knows what the future has in store for us? Is it realistic to want to be mortgage free by 35, 40, but who knows what our mortgage is going to look like? We're probably not going to live in this house for more than 5-10 years. Is this going to be an investment property? I have no idea. I think I'm getting a bit too in my head about it, rather than being like, you know, you can make progress, pay down your mortgage as much as you can and just like roll with the punches, see what your 5-10 year plan is in 5-10 years. Like, you don't have to figure it out right here, right now. So yeah, short-term goal, $20,000 by the end of 2024, which using the website Mortgage Months, which I've been harping on about recently, but this is such an interesting tool. It doesn't paint the whole picture because it depends on interest rates and property growth, but there's a few variables, but just as an idea, just with that once off $20,000 by the end of this year, it will reduce our mortgage by $101,977. This is with us making no other extra payments for the next 27 years. $101,977, a total saving of $81,977, and it will take off 2 years and 2 months of our mortgage. Crazy numbers. So that is our motivation. That's our why right now. And I've talked about this before, especially when it comes to overspending or impulse spending. Keeping your why at the center of everything you do is a game changer. We use this approach when we were saving for our wedding, saving for our house deposit, paying off our car, asking ourselves, is this a want or a need? Is this going to help us get any closer to our financial goal? 9 times out of 10, it wasn't a need. And when I reminded myself of my why, like I want to be debt free, I want to pay for my wedding, I want to buy a house, having that why and that purpose at the center of everything I do, especially when it came to making purchases, made me instantly like not want to buy anything. And if this is something that you're struggling with, I think maybe reevaluating whether or not your why really aligns with you. Because if you don't care about it, how are you going to find the motivation to keep going with it? You know? So this is our why. 2 years and 2 months of our mortgage by the end of 2024, just from $20,000 in additional payments. And it's going to be a challenge. It will be a challenge, but one that we were up for. I also, before filming this video, sat down, I spent like half an hour doing this, working out how much we've paid of our mortgage over the last 2 years in terms of regular repayments and extra payments, and how much of that money has gone towards interest. And as I said, it is shocking. These are our real nitty-gritty numbers. Even though we moved into this house just over a year ago, we've been paying our mortgage for the last 2 years because we built our house. So we had to take out a split loan. So we had one loan for our land, which we had just regular mortgage payments. That was principal and interest while we were building. And then we also had a separate loan for the build construction portion. And that was interest only until we got the keys and moved in. So keep that in mind because this may skew some of the numbers. So over the last 2 years, we've paid $76,673.84 in regular payments. And of that amount, $50,157.75 of that has gone towards interest. Oh my gosh, it's so sad. So only $26,516.09 has gone towards principal, actually paying off that loan. In 2 years, $13,000 a year. Is that not so sad? However, in the last 2 years, we've been really lucky. When we originally bought this house, we were living with my parents for 6 months, which is like a whole nother story within itself, wouldn't recommend doing, but it did allow us to save a bit of money on rent, and we put extra towards our mortgage for those 6 months. And then we've been paying extra here and there over the last 2 years. So in total, we paid an extra $18,175.29 in extra repayments over the last 2 years, which means we paid off a total of $44,691.38 of our overall mortgage, which is better. I mean, it's better. We're lucky that we can do that. We absolutely would not have been able to do that if interest rates were as high as they are right now. Back when we bought, because we had a fixed interest rate of 2.69%, I want to say, on one half of our mortgage. So when they were that low, obviously more of our repayments were going towards the principal rather than interest. Not so much anymore. So with that in mind, our current mortgage balance is $593,173 approximately at an interest rate of 6.45%, which is still a heck of a lot of money, isn't it? And that number being at zero feels so out of reach. So out of reach, especially knowing that this probably isn't our forever home. And when we next buy, we'll almost definitely be buying something more expensive. I think the key though, when it comes to paying off debt, is just to take it 1 month at a time, even 1 week at a time. This really helped when we were paying off our car, just taking it month by month, being like an extra $1,000 here. Oh, I made a little bit more this month. Let's put an extra $500. Oh, we got our tax return. Let's put all of that on the car. In total, we've paid off 7.32% of our mortgage since moving into our house, which feels a little bit better. That's like almost 10%. As potentially discouraging and sad as it is to see how much of our money has gone towards interest, it is also motivating in a weird kind of way. It just makes me want to keep going with it. I don't want to be paying over $76,000 in regular repayments and only $26,000 of that going towards my actual mortgage. So as confronting as this exercise has been, it's also given me that extra motivation and push to really crack on with it, especially right now. Like while we're in this financial position, I'm making more money than I ever thought possible I've ever made in my life. And as lucrative as it is right now, I'm not naive and I know that this isn't going to last forever. So I want to put in the hard yards and make that money work for me as best as I can now to set myself up for the future, because who knows? And this isn't coming from like a scarcity mindset. This is me just literally being realistic. So using this $20,000 challenge that we set ourselves as a guideline, if we were able to sustain that for the foreseeable future, that would be $3,333 extra in repayments. So we're going to add this as a monthly repayment for the duration of our loan just to see when we would have that paid off. And I'm just going to put $30,000 in our offset account, which is like what we've been typically keeping in there. That will save us a total of $487,098 and shave 18 years and 1 month off our loan, which means, looking at this little graphy graph, we should, if we keep this up, which it's a big if, but if we are able to keep this up, we will be able to pay off our loan by August 2033. How many years is that from now? 9 years from now. How old will I be? 36? 36, but last year I had 37. Yeah, 36. I'll be 36. Otherwise, we'll have it paid off in 2051. Which just feels like a lifetime away, doesn't it? Could you imagine that? Hi, my name's Ella. I'm 36, mortgage free. I'm visualizing, guys. I'm trying to manifest. As I said, I'm trying not to focus too much on the long term because I don't really find a lot of motivation. Like it just feels so out of reach. Like I can't even imagine myself as a 30-year-old, let alone 36, which I'm literally like 2 years away from being 30. So better start imagining. Who knows what the future has in store, but one thing is for certain, if we continue to pay off extra towards our mortgage, we will save so much in interest in the long run. Even if we didn't pay off a single extra cent after this year, we'll shave over 2 years off of our mortgage. In terms of where that money goes when it comes to paying off our mortgage, that's a question I've been getting a lot recently. I'm not sure what it's like in other countries, but here in Australia, you can have an offset account most of the time, depending on the bank and how your loan is set up, but usually an offset account is an option. It's like a savings account almost, but rather than getting interest on your savings are used to offset the interest on your home loan. So for an example, say you have like a $500,000 mortgage and you have $50,000 in your offset account, they'll only charge interest on $450,000 because you have $50,000 in that offset. It basically works like any other account. You can get paid into it, you can have a card attached to it, pay bills from it. Like, it's a transactional account. You can take that money and do whatever you want with it at any time. So there's a lot of benefits to having an offset. It's kind of a no-brainer, I think, in a lot of situations. There is also something called a redraw, which is attached to your home loan. Again, not every home loan has one, but in our situation, we have an offset and also a redraw. So if we pay extra towards our mortgage, say $50,000 we put on our home loan, it's taken off our mortgage, but it's also kept in a redraw account. So if at any point we wanted to take that extra money that we've paid off of our mortgage, like if we were to buy another house, we can redraw, but you're like basically borrowing it from the bank again. In terms of saving interest, there's literally no difference between a redraw or an offset, but there are some tax implications when it comes to buying a second residence if you want to make your first one an investment property. So that is something we're keeping in mind. I'm not a financial expert and I feel like I cannot explain this, like this is too complex for me, but I'll have some videos linked down below to some other people that I've seen discuss it, like the benefits of having an offset versus a redraw. And again, this comes back to long-term goals. Like, do we want this to be an investment property one day? If so, actually paying that money towards our mortgage directly doesn't really make any sense for tax purposes, and it would actually be better for us to keep it in our offset. What we have been doing is just paying it off our mortgage directly because I like seeing that amount go down. Like, that is just motivation within itself to see our loan amount decrease. And it's also nice to not have it in our offset account and not be tempted to spend it. But if anything were to change and we do want to make this an investment property, would it make more sense to have it in our offset? I don't know. Definitely something to consider and something that we'll keep in mind. But yeah, that is where we're at right now. Our 6-month goal is paying off $20,000 extra. Our current debt owing is $593,173. And other than that, we don't really have any other debt apart from our credit card, which we pay off at the end of every month, and also HEX debt, which is like student loan debt if you're not from Australia. It's taken out from whatever you make from your money, like with your taxes. So before you get your actual paycheck, your take-home pay is after your HEX payment. So you've both been chipping away at our HEX payments for all of our working life. I do have a HEX debt, even though I don't have anything to show for it. I didn't graduate from university, but I do have a bit of a HEX debt. Nick has a substantial one. He did a double degree of law and media, and he was at uni for 5 years, so that has racked up. But we have no plans on paying any extra towards it, at least not right now. We don't see the point. Again, totally depends on people's financial situations. We didn't have any trouble with our mortgage and our borrowing power. In the future, if that is the case, then it's definitely something that we'll consider, but it makes more sense interest-wise to keep that in our offset or pay it directly off of our mortgage. And yeah, I really know of very few people who have actually paid off their HEX in full. And if you earn less than a certain amount, you don't have to pay it off. So like when I was working part-time and I was working like minimum wage, I didn't have to pay my HEX debt until I started earning over a certain amount. But yeah, definitely something that I factor in when I'm working out our total net worth, because it is technically a debt, but we are officially consumer debt free. Car is paid off. Now we're working towards paying off our mortgage. So watch this space, guys. Obviously I'll do my monthly updates and see how much we're able to pay off, and maybe check in and kind of see how we're going with everything, whether or not these timelines and goals are working for us. I'm excited to see. I'm feeling good about it, feeling motivated. As sad as it was to work out how much interest we paid on our mortgage in the last 2 years, it's also very motivating. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap up this video here. I feel like this was so chatty. I had every intention of this just being like a one-take wonder, but I fear we cannot be doing that. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I would love to know in the comments down below what you guys are working towards, whether it's debt payoff or saving for a house deposit, whatever your next financial goals are. Feel free to leave a comment down below if you feel comfortable, just to keep ourselves accountable. And it's always fun seeing what other people are working towards. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down below as well. Follow me over on my TikTok and Instagram if you want to see more short form content. And I will see you guys very soon for another video. Bye guys.